Good evening, everyone.
Sure.
Welcome to the September 21st School Board Planning Meeting. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Benko, could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Rawhauser?
Roger.
Mrs. Maley?
Here.
Mrs. Herman?
Here.
Mr. Emig?
Here.
Mr. Eifert?
Here.
Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
And Mrs. Britton? Here. All are present.
Thank you. First on our agenda is our public comment session. This would be our first period of the evening. This is a 3-minute session for items on or off of tonight's agenda. So if you have anything you would like to discuss, please come to the microphones and state your name and address for the record. Okay. Board President's communication. We did not have an executive session tonight. Everybody was in their committee sessions. So we'll move right into our report outs for the evening. Comprehensive planning and curriculum and professional development were combined together as one happy family tonight. So we'll turn things over to Mr. DeLauder and Mrs. Maley and Mrs. Herman.
All right, thank you. First, I want to apologize to my fellow board members. I literally got here 15 minutes ago, so I'm going to totally read these off the notes and have no idea what I'm talking about. So, okay? So any questions, go to Ms. Herman and Mrs. Maley. So, all right. The first thing he talked about apparently was the comprehensive plan, and that is actually expiring in 2019, and so we're going to need to resubmit that in the fall of 2019. The assessment results, 2016-2017 assessment results for PSSA, ELA, and math and science and the Keystones. English, math, and bio scores were shared. Are you going to give more of an update on what was found on that?
Well, we realized that we didn't have a whole lot of growth last year, and that therefore that set all our goals in motion this summer. But we talked more about how excited we are about moving forward, and we have a lot of things in place, and we are fully confident that we are going to see wonderful growth next year.
Okay. As I said earlier, our comprehensive plan is expiring in 2019, and we're going to continue to work to prepare for that next plan implementation. Our 2017-2018 district SMART goals, the review is we had 5 goals, and that is data analysis, MTSS Tier 1 for all students, MTSS Tier 2 and 3 for struggling students, PBIS, and aligning to the Danielson rubric, which I understand that's the teacher evaluation model. Next is assessments. The NWEA MAP implementation has been successful so far. Staff members had multiple days of trainings during the 3-hour early dismissal day. Teachers were given time to review data and plan intervention. Teachers will utilize data to guide instruction. Elementary deans worked hard for successful implementation. Moving forward, student conferencing is essential for student success. CDTs will be administered at Dover High School, and the intermediate school is exploring possible online testing next year. Under the curriculum tab, K-6 ELA teachers have begun writing their curriculum. The curriculum map has been very helpful. K-5 will be working on everyday math alignment. At the start of the school year, an everyday math trainer provided a helpful PD session for teachers, and the same trainer will return to each elementary school to coach and observe to help teachers refine their teaching practices. North Salem is piloting everyday math in 6th grade. And Dover Intermediate School is utilizing the comprehension toolkit, and Dover High School is aligning all curriculum to the academics model. Excuse me here.
No, you're going the wrong way.
Am I going the wrong way?
Yep. Move your fingers the other way. Or curriculum.
And instruction, we have partnered with the LIU for a technology coaching model. We need to prepare our students for the jobs of the future. The LIU team will work with building level instructional leadership teams to develop a plan, and the district has adopted the ETEP for supervision and evaluation. Material and resources, all the resources and materials have been aligned to the curriculum. Under Safe and Supportive Schools, PBIS and attendance, we have a new social worker, Kirsten Johnson, and she will work to support our school teams and connect family to resources. Under professional development, teachers are asking for additional professional development on MAP, common assessments, curriculum writing, co-teacher and inclusion, differentiated instruction, PBIS, and technology. And then finally, under public comment, the MAP report is showing that math is an area of great concern. Grading practices currently are not clear, and the elementary, specifically the primary grades, have a need for technology. And that's everything on the notes.
Any questions or discussion? Mrs. Herman, Mrs. Smaley, anything
No,
you
but
want
just
to add?
to point out that
Anybody else?
Ms.
out there?
Johnson, our new social worker, is sitting right there.
Welcome.
Tonight was the first I was introduced as well, so.
Anybody? Okay, thank you. We will now move on to facilities with Mr. Emig, Mr. Rawhauser, and Mrs. Brinton.
Couple items that we had touched on since we last met was we inquired about changing the speed limit to 15 miles an hour from 25 at Weigelstown. However, the township refuses to foot the bill on that. If we would change that, it would be up to us. So they refuse to do that. Mr. Nelson met with a gentleman interested in the Crawltown building about 3 weeks ago, and he's very much interested, but so far he's not given us any amount of money he would pay. And Mr. Watts, I don't know if you can answer this. I had brought this up. There was a Boy Scout looking for his Eagle Scout award, putting shells in the drumline room. Has he done that? No. Okay. And the softball scoreboard has been installed, so that takes care of items from the past. Items that we had talked about tonight as well from the D10 request is they need to add video surveillance cameras to the stadium, at least 2 more. All the blinds in North Salem and Live have been installed. That is completed. They had to replace the hot water heater in the, they needed to replace the hot water heater at Live, but one of the main boilers needed to be rebuilt due to an unexpected leak. The driveway around Live for parent drop-off has been completed. It's in the process of purchasing a used bucket truck. That has not been completed yet. There is on order a new replacement for the 1999 Chevy pickup truck with a liftgate. The dump bed for the 2005 Chevrolet cost more than what Dave had anticipated due to the fact that there was extensive damage that needed repaired and the hydraulic ram needed replaced. So that was probably a good $6,000 more than what he had projected. They installed a new dishwasher at the high school, which is operational. Items that have been completed, they refinished the gym floors at the high school. They also refinished the gym floors at North Salem. They installed center astrogals on 4 doorways at the high school gym lobby, and they needed to replace a damaged door and lock at the North Salem nursing room. And 3 buildings still need more cameras for safety concerns. Dom had brought that up. We plan to put that on the D10 request for future, but we do need 3 more buildings need more cameras due to safety concerns. And Mr. Nelson showed us a program called Navigate that we should put him on for a presentation in an upcoming meeting. Mrs. Britton, anything else that I might have missed? Mr. Rawhauser?
Oh, you covered it. We
Hey.
had a light evening.
Other than that, that's all I have at this point.
I want to specify about the cameras. It was known during the safety drill that
Oh, yeah, the cameras that they had brought up when we had the intruder drill. There are cameras that are not operational behind the building, so you can't see what the entrance or the exit doors, if anybody's coming in and out. That's why it was a concern that we should add some more cameras.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to human and fiscal resources with Mr. Cook.
Good evening. We met this evening and talked about a number of items. First and foremost, I guess, is the financial audit update for 2016-2017. As you know, we always go through that audit process with Boyer and Ritter. They're in the process of doing that. They've spent 3 days so far here in the district and are continuing that process. That process will go on for the next couple of months here till it's all said and done. Goal is to get it done by the end of October, but because of the need for outside resource information, it oftentimes goes beyond that. So realistically, probably looking at sometime in November for that process to be completed. Our next item was the state budget update. There's probably several of us on the board here that would love to talk about that whole situation up there, but at this point in time, there's no budget funding in place. There's been some proposals that have come up and been voted down, and right now they're even fighting amongst their own parties. So it doesn't seem like we're headed in the right direction, unfortunately. So hopefully something changes soon. They're trying to work it out, so you know, that's the process right now. Amy, I know you're in the trenches there with them, so hopefully that'll soon get worked out. Next item was our budget transfers. As you know, Jen and Amy have been keeping us up to speed with budget transfers as they occur. We don't have very many of them this month. There was only 5 items on the list at this point. There'll probably be more till next month's board meeting, but primarily, well, there was a few of them related to intermediate school changes that took place there, with Mrs. Gross not really having a chance to get involved in the budget process till she came on board. A few things that she's working to tweak. So there might be a few things coming our way from the intermediate school in the future as well. And also, as we mentioned at the meeting on Tuesday night, the changes with some special education fund need for expenses are higher than what we had anticipated. That's something we had talked about briefly with LIU. There might need to be some budget transfers along those lines to pull money from areas where they're not needed to fund those things that are needed there. The next topic was safe and supportive, safe schools online training information. This topic, I guess we could almost share really, but from a personnel perspective, we voted on Tuesday night to use a program that allows us to have better tracking mechanisms for the mandates that we're required to follow when it comes to online report or online child reporting, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of topics. This is going to, have a lot of high potential to really be a valuable tool to our staff and our employees. The first 2 topics that we're going to be using there are child mandated reporting and suicide prevention at the secondary levels, but there's over 1,000 potential topics there that we could use, could be utilized by all different facets of our employee staff, including like food services, facilities. A lot of people will be able to use them, so it's a great tool that we'll have coming up, and working on getting that up and running, hopefully sometime by maybe the end of October is Christina's goal there for that. Moving on, let's see, staffing update. At this point, we can report out that all professional positions are filled. We still have approximately 10 support positions, give or take, that we're still working to fill. Just a kind of a shout out to, folks that may not realize that some of these support staff positions might work within their time that they have available. It's going to be a reach out, try to get more information out like that, so people, our potential candidates are aware of what we have to offer. Continuing to work with our HR staff and trying to build good relationships between our HR department, basically our whole district as a whole, as part of the attraction for maybe some more staff applicants to fill in. We also talked a little bit about a couple of things that are coming the staff's way. There's a couple of emails that have gone out. One is about the flu shot, which is available to all district employees, retirees, and also about Highmark. You had mentioned, Christine, about Highmark coming to our buildings. Highmark is sending one of their employees will come and share some of the things that maybe staff don't know, some of the things about their services, about flexible spending accounts, which is a tool that is available to all employees here. So one of the representatives will come, and we can look forward to that coming up as well. Let's see, a job description review we talked about as well. At this point in time, we're looking at the job descriptions, starting with the administrative team here in the administrative office. Kind of taking a look at those job descriptions, just getting a little bit of information more about what they actually say versus what the folks are doing. So trying to get those things tweaked a little bit, so as time goes on, we maybe have a few of those that'll come, before us for maybe some modifications as Tracy works with our administrative team to get those in place. I think that was it. Nate, did I miss anything?
You covered it all. You got
Okay.
it.
All right. Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Cook? Okay, Mr. Deschaux, Safe and Supportive Schools.
We had a couple of items today. One of them was the concern for a response time from the emergency responders. About 2 weeks ago, we had a staff member who had a incident at the school. 911 was called, and it took the ambulance company 40 minutes to get here. It has been taken care of. Brad has called and spoke to the supervisors at York County 911, and everything has been addressed to our knowledge. Brad wasn't there to go into it, but he said everything was handled, and supposedly everything turned out just fine for the staff member. So that has been addressed, and hopefully we won't have any more issues with that. Moving on, if everybody looks, I gave you a copy of the athletic statement. This is a statement, well, a guideline set by the athletic department for game management. It goes into the constant problem that they're having with being babysitters at the game. If you look at the first highlight, one of the biggest changes is that all non-high school students grades K through 8 must be accompanied by an adult. We are changing that to be an adult or post-grad.
We're going to clarify, because
Yeah.
adult, one of the questions, Kent, was, does that mean a high school student who brings their sibling? To us, an adult is a postgraduate individual, so we're going to add that piece after adult to clarify.
So entry into any high school athletic events. The other ones are pretty common with West York. The major one is at the very bottom where it says all Dover area high school students receive free entry into regular season high school sporting events by showing their current year school ID at the gates upon initial entry. So this is a guideline set by the athletic department, and they are just looking for board backing on any concerns that some parents may have that they cannot drop their students off anymore. So we have that. Then,
Can I ask a question real
no,
quick
go
on this
ahead.
while we're on this? Does this compare across all districts within the county? Is it very similar to what all the other districts are doing?
this
Or
was basically word for word from West York. You also said it was,
Rich and I reached out to all the ADs and principals throughout York Adams. West York and York Suburban have almost identical policies. The response from almost every other principal and AD was, we do not currently, but let us know how yours turns out, because I think you're seeing a number of them. West York was the first, and now we're starting to see it develop all across our league.
okay.
all right, so moving on to parking tickets for students without parking permits. This is also another guideline set by the high school administration. They are looking for your first offense, you get a verbal warning. It'll be written down through a carbon copy ticket given to the dean of students. After that, they plan on giving a $5 parking fee. The funds will be given to the Student Activity Fund, and it will progress through, I believe the Northern Regionals will start enforcing it after that. So that's all we really have for that. And it was going to be enrolled October 1st. And I did say that, I forgot to say, the athletic statement will be enforced at, not this Friday, but the following Friday, I think is what he said.
The athletic policy will go into effect on September 29th, so that gives us a week to publicize.
Yep.
And to kind of add on to, as far as publicizing it, is it okay that we share this letter, like, on social
It's
media?
going to be broadcast through, what, Sky? Yeah.
It's going to go out from our athletic department as well as the district level, and we're going to do a blitz campaign all next week to make sure there's no one that doesn't know. And per a suggestion from Mr. Karras, we're going to ask our CT department to make banners that have these policies that we can put at both entrance gates to make it very, very clear to our spectators.
Is this an issue with all events, like outside? I mean, I can see where you could easily enforce it at the stadium, but what about at other non-gated events? Who would police
It only
it?
applies to gated events because the other ones we really have, it's come and go. It's really only an issue at our events that are held in the stadium and the gym.
And that's all I have.
Any other questions?
As far as the parking goes, have you made the announcement, Mr. Wassler, that the church across the street is not permitted for students to park there that lose their privileges here? Because it happens year after year.
We did that for the first, and then we also have another one because the night of our West York game, they're having a very large function at the church, so we've already coordinated with them as well to make sure that it's very clear that that parking lot is not available for school use.
Because when I go over there and I see cars, I get the license plate and then I contact the school.
Correct, and Officer Allen goes over and tickets them, calls them, and said, if you don't move your car, it won't be there at the end of the night.
Okay?
Anybody else? Okay. Next is our miscellaneous period. Any other comments or observations from our board members tonight? I had one thing I'd like to add for the evening, and that is how much I enjoy the artwork that is in the room this time.
Yeah.
The kindergarten students have done something really neat there. It's better than what I could do. And so I just think it's really neat what they have up there for us this month. So, anybody else?
Yes, this policy we're putting in, should we not be voting on that tonight to make it official?
What policy?
This is more of a statement than an actual policy at this point.
Okay.
So, we will not have an official vote, but how do the board members feel as far as the statement overall?
I know it's been a problem when I've, just being there as a spectator, I've noticed it, so I think this is a good way to tighten that up.
Anybody else?
I have one question, maybe you don't know yet. I was asked, is there any time in the future when the public will be invited as far as the school project or the high school and all this architectural? Will that be put out sometime, or when is that?
Go ahead, Jen, I'll let you.
Actually, yes. We do have our committee with some public members on the committee. And also, we will be holding an Act 34 hearing sometime in the future. There's a lot of PlanCon requirements that need to happen prior to that hearing. We had a meeting on Wednesday with our financial advisors, RBC, and also Crabtree Rohrbaugh, our bond counsel, and our real estate solicitor, Mr. Raymeyer, to discuss the Act 34 hearing. We're going to start to get some information together, so hopefully we will have a preliminary Act 34 booklet with some information to run by the board. Maybe, hopefully in October, and we will move on from there. So yes, we will be having an Act 34 hearing sometime in the future, hopefully by January.
Thank you.
What about
I think it's,
town hall?
well, I think it's also important to remember that the public has always been invited to all of the public meetings that we've had here, every time we've had discussions and
Yes,
presentations
but they
on this.
don't
so
know of them.
It's publicized.
Where?
It's part of the agenda. Every time we have a presentation, it's on the agenda listed as a Crabtree
What if you don't get the
presentation.
agenda?
So we've been, putting it out online. Any public meetings have been put out online via our website, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. We've done numerous ads in the Merchandiser in the past. Also, YDR has been covering our project very closely. We did two presentations at both the high school and the intermediate school open houses. That's where we are at this point. I'm sure there'll be more within the next coming months. We just don't have those planned at this point.
I understand it's going out to the parents, but I'm talking about the ones that don't have students. the ones that
Like
don't
I
have-
said, we've been putting things in the Merchandiser and also York Daily Record on a pretty consistent basis.
There's nothing been in the York Daily Record for months. Maybe the Dispatch, but not the Daily Record.
I apologize, I'm not quite sure what the difference between those two papers are, but Mr. Perkins can reach out to one of their reporters and see if we can get some more information out there. All of the information is out on our website, and we have a capital projects page, and I think we've shared that numerous times here at our meetings and also at any of our public reach outs.
Maybe in order to kind of address what Charlie's might be nervous about, people not getting the word, is there any way, have we thought about maybe creating a fact sheet or something that we could put at the
We
the
do.
senior center?
Yeah, we do have a fact sheet. We were kind of waiting for this Act 34 informational booklet to be published. We have a brochure ready to go. We have not printed them yet. Just because of the cost of printing, we want to make sure that all of the information in those booklets is correct before we put it out to the public. So that is formulated, and I think there might even be a copy out on our website already. But we want to make sure before we put it out at senior centers and libraries and townships and everywhere else that the information is up to date and correct before we do a mass printing.
I know it's hard, but one of my point is that you're not picking up on. A lot of people, all they get from the school district is a tax notice. They don't get a paper. They're not online because it's not available. And the newspaper's too expensive to pay for because I renewed my membership or what to get this, what they used to call a newspaper. They said, well, you get a discount. Normally it's $400 a year. And that's discouraging many people from even getting the morning paper or either paper. And that was just my point that, people that all they get's a tax notice.
We can definitely take any suggestions on how to get to those people. Other than going knocking door to door, I'm not quite sure.
Are you suggesting that a letter goes out? You're saying that they get tax notices from us. Are you suggesting that we as a district send a letter kind of saying, okay, this is where you can find this information, or if you have any questions about it, contact so-and-so? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, I'm just stating that, but then people, do know about things and then they don't respond anyhow. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people out here, senior citizens, that don't get information. I understand it's publicized through Facebook and all stuff online, but if you're not online, you don't get it.
So how are you proposing that they
I
get
don't
that
know. I'm just stating that.
What about the community courier? Everybody gets that. So we should put it in there.
And we have, again, advertised our meetings in there. We also did, Mrs. Mealy, we also did talk about doing one mass mailing. We want to make sure the time is right for that mass mailing. Right now is not the time, I don't believe, because we don't have enough planned on the project to do that.
But you're thinking of doing a mass mailing before we actually approve the project and say, yes, we're absolutely doing it. I think that's probably what Charlie's partly
think-
getting at to the,
I think it can come around the time, maybe around we advertise the Act 34 booklet and the hearing. That's probably when the best time would be, because the public's going to have that information anyhow.
okay.
And maybe in the meantime, if there are people who would like specifically to be reached by mail, maybe we could, I don't know how cumbersome it would be to have like a snail mail distribution list and have a mailing list for those who definitely would like that to be sent.
But those people would have to contact the district
Yeah.
and say, hey, I want mail.
Yeah.
I have encouraged anybody that I talk to, and I've had a few concerned phone calls, and I have talked to them and gave them all of the information that we have, and encouraged them for any of their friends or family members that need information on the project, please give me a call. We're pretty good here at returning phone calls, when it deals with important matters. So if you are talking, any of you are talking to anybody that has questions, give us a call. We want to make sure that, again, the right information is out there. So that's an avenue also.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Backing up to the proposed change here. I guess you asked Nate a little bit ago how everybody feels about it. I guess I would have some mixed feelings about it. I mean, I understand there'd be an issue there with, kids being unsupervised, but I'm sure there's a number of them that come. I'm just wondering, do you end up squashing school spirit when the kids come? I don't know where the source of the issue is, if it's the elementary level, it's at the intermediate level. I guess, not really understanding what's behind this and how serious of an issue it is, how big of a problem it is, I would ask those questions that, we gonna, for the sake of a few bad eggs, turn away a lot of people who come with a good spirit and want to be, part of the school pride and that sort of thing. So I guess without that information, I kind of have mixed feelings about it right now, tonight.
I know one of the biggest concerns is the fact that, okay, you drop your kid off. He gets hurt, he gets knocked out. We don't know who he is. There's no parent there to take charge of the matter. It's more of a safety issue. B, there are some bad eggs in the school. Is it turning them away? Maybe, but when it comes down to it, you guys have all been to one of the games. They're all crowding in there. It's kind of a hard flow to just weave your way through everything. They're standing on gates and fencing and stuff like that. They just, basically, they're not trying to take the school spirit away. They're trying to have a parent there just in case if your child is being bad, that they can be warned and taken out. Because right now, if that kid is being bad, you've just got rid of him out of the school, now he's outside, and now you have another safety issue.
My concern, though, would be that, some of the high school students would fit in that same category of, making bad choices, getting knocked out and not knowing who they are. I guess you can argue, it could go all the way up through 12th grade, so where do you draw the line? And I have a little, I get the 7th and 8th grade, those are tough years. Which side do you err on for that? I personally think I could drop my 8th grader off and he would be perfectly fine, but that doesn't necessarily apply to all 8th graders. I don't know where exactly to draw that line.
Well, I would think because it is a high school football team, not that we don't want to discourage our junior high kids or, kind of pick them out just for that sake, but I think being that it's the high school players and the high school students going to enjoy the high school game, I would think that would be kind of the mindset of why it would be 9 through 12 able to be there as opposed to K through 8. And also, when we were talking about this during we kind of went over it a little bit in the facilities meeting, I kind of equated it to the public pool, like Green Valley. We go to Green Valley every summer. If you don't know where your child is and they get in trouble by a lifeguard or the owner of the pool, they come right back to you and say, do you know where your child is? And if you have no idea, or if you have issues with your child, then, you know, they don't let you drop your kids off and stay at the pool all day. And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but that's kind of how I was looking at it as far as a safety concern, where they don't want to be babysitters, and it's not fair for our administration, who is trying to do 5 million other things during a football game, to have to worry about babysitting kids whose parents just drop them off and let them, you know, run around. You know, they may not have bad intentions, but the kids, I've been there, I've seen the kids being disrespectful, using inappropriate language, I've seen inappropriate behavior, and so that's just my thoughts.
Do other districts kind of have the cutoff at 8th grade, so 8th grade below?
Places that are identical.
Okay.
So are we looking to make this a policy? Is that what the goal is?
This is not a policy at all. It is a guideline set by the athletic department. It falls under their game management. So it is not a policy whatsoever for voting. It is just strictly their guideline, and just us, they're asking
Aware of it.
us to be aware, and that we might catch some heat from parents who are upset that they can't drop their kids off.
And how are they gonna monitor that? So when they go up to pay, if they don't have their student ID, obviously they're gonna know that they're not a high school student, but, I mean, is somebody gonna look at a kid and say, okay, what grade are you in and what adult are you with? I mean, how's that gonna get monitored?
We actually did this at our previous game in a modified form. The major issue was, one, the lack of communication, because we put it in place very rapidly. It fell apart, but we were able to filter, and in all honesty, the feedback we got from parents who were upset weren't mad that their kid had to go to a different gate, because that's how we did it that night. They were more upset that their kid had to enter a different gate than where they were. And a number of those comments were, I'm here with my kid and I tell them to check in at halftime and the end of the game. Their kid's not watching the game. But we were able to filter them off to the front of the gate. We knew who they were, but we knew which parent they were attached to, so if we did have an issue, we knew where to take that student back to, and that student knew where their parent was. That's the piece that we were missing. We have a number that comes straight through the gate and stop right there by the gate and never watch the game, never watch the band. They simply walk 10 feet and plant on a wall.
Well, that's part of the fun of being in a football game. I mean,
On top of it, I got to tell you, for someone who's there, and again, I can't talk about anything else like in the gymnasium or anything, but during football season, I'm there every single home game, running the French fry stand, and I can tell you, and it is the younger students who are climbing on the wall behind the French fry stand. I had one kid one night actually trying to climb on top of the roof of the French fry stand. I've seen kids trying to climb the fence behind there. Out in front, in that open area by the ramps, kids are running around, like slapping each other, again, saying inappropriate comments. I saw them knock over an older person with the horseplay that they're doing. So, and I agree. I think there's a small population that's doing this, and a large majority of the students are well behaved. But I think from a school standpoint, we've got to get control of that small group of students, because, like I said, I mean, the older person who was knocked down was not hurt this time, but I mean, I think that's a potential.
so how do we get those, so that same group of kids, though, might still end up being there, and the parents are sitting in the stand, and like you said, have no idea where.
Right. And I agree.
So is that really gonna stop that? I mean, I guess time will tell.
Right. I think there's a starting point. If it doesn't work, then I think it's something that we have to look at. We can look at further, but I think this is a good place to start.
Well, in that case too, the parent is there. So if there is an issue, like Mr. Wassler said, they can go right back to the parent and say, no.
And if you look at bullet point 3, it does say that the student will receive a verbal warning from the district staff member. Should the action still continue, the student will be asked to leave the event along with the adult. That's how you get rid of the ones who still have a parent there.
Yeah, I think it's a starting point. I was at the football game the other week, and it's easier to pronounce the superintendent than her last name. And her and I were discussing this, how the kids were running around. Some of them, they drop them off, and the parents leave. And Wessler had told us that one student he found sitting on the sidewalk or somewhere, and he said, well, the parents aren't coming till 11 o'clock tonight. And there just needs to be a little more try to control, because them kids were running around. Like I said, they aren't watching the football game, and if you want to walk certain areas, you got to watch so you don't fall over one of them, because they have no idea where they're going. And a lot of them are little kids. And they probably don't even know who was playing.
It is a real safety issue, in that if you have to evacuate the gym or we have to evacuate the stadium, something happens, you're flooding out of those gates and out of those doors. And what's going to happen to those kids that don't have an adult attending to them? They're disappearing out through Dover. Then, how do we connect the parents with them? I'm just worried about that kind of stuff that can happen too. I think it's a situation we need to get our arms around. It's a little bit out of control. Particularly, I notice it too with Chuck, working as a roadie for the band, and that it's hard just to get our band onto the field, because you've got kids flooding that concourse area where you're pretty much having to shove them out of the way to be able to get the band even in on the field. So it's a situation that's gotten out of hand that I think needs to be addressed. So I think we give it a whirl and see how it goes for a while, and test it and see if we need to tweak it and go from there. So anybody else? Okay. That takes us to our last public comment period. It's a 2-minute period for items on or off of the agenda. So if you have anything like to comment on, please come to the microphones. Okay. With that, our future meetings, our next board action meeting is October 17th. That's a Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Then our board committee meetings will be October 19th at 6 p.m. and our board planning meeting October 19th at 7 p.m. So if there's nothing else for the good of the order tonight, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.